Hey folks, Andrew here with Nashville Severe Weather. We are going to go live here for a severe thunderstorm warning that is for really far northwestern Davidson County right now, and does not include most of Davidson County, doesn't include any of Williamson County right now. It's just far northwestern Davidson County. Let me get rid of these two boxes and just go to one here, and you can check out where this warning is. So let's take a look at the polygon, and you see the yellow polygon here that covers a good part of Robertson County down into Cheatham County, and then now just far northwestern Davidson County. So we're being clipped by this particular polygon here that does include Joelton and off to the northwest of really the center part of the town of Joelton up there in northwestern Davidson County. So all the way up the highway there, 431, that goes up into Robertson County to Springfield out of Joelton. Everybody lives up there along, I believe, Baxter Road is up there, Coopertown Road, Baxter Road up in there. So you folks are included in that severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect until 9:45. Let's talk about what's coming in from the northwest here, and you can kind of see this line of storms we've been talking about over on Twitter. And this line has been coming in from Clarksville, and they have been actually got a pretty good wind gust in the Clarksville there a little bit ago. They recorded winds up to 50, I believe 53, something like that, 53 miles an hour there on the ground in Clarksville. And then there were reports that the winds could have estimated up around 65 around Clarksville as well. So, wind's pretty strong up there. And if we take a look at the velocities, at least from the Weather Service office radar in Old Hickory, see these bright blues up here, especially up there in Robertson County. Some very strong winds being indicated up there aloft around 2,000 feet, talking around 70 miles an hour up there. So very strong winds, especially the further north you go up toward the Kentucky border in Robertson County, up there approaching Springfield. But for us here in Davidson County, we're just kind of waiting for this line to get here, and this has been, the warning was extended out to the east to include us, just to give everybody a heads up, exactly what we're doing here, give us all a heads up to let us know that this thing's coming. So let me go over to the Goodlettsville camera. This is in Goodlettsville looking west, and this is right there on Main Street in Goodlettsville looking back to the west toward this line of storms, and you'll see the sky light up a little bit there every once in a while for some pretty strong lightning flashes occasionally, but most of that's off in the distance and hasn't quite gotten into the area closer to the camera. So we'll be watching for that here in just a little bit. I'm watching the radar off to the left here while you're watching that camera, and the new scans are coming in here, and the hail sizes are up a little bit larger up again where those heaviest winds were up north of Springfield, or really approaching Springfield. And that's going to be off to the right of this camera picture here, where the strongest weather is going to be. Down to the south, let me go back to the radar and show you. Down to the south, we have a little bit of a kind of a break in the weather. It's still heavy rain, maybe a little bit of hail in there, but there's really kind of a, let me go to the hail view and show you. There's kind of larger hail up here in Robertson County, and then it's not quite as strong here. Maybe some more hail trying to get going down there in southern Montgomery County. So anyway, we'll just kind of have to see how this affects us as it comes southeast. But for now, we're under severe thunderstorm warning here till 9:45. And that's for this polygon that clips us there on the northwest side of Davidson County. So we're going to be here for a while, and we will talk about these storms as they come in. We'll look back off to the northwest and take a look at what's coming in up there. And of course, we're looking at the Nashville radar, so don't get a very good read on the storms behind it. But there are some storms behind this first round, but none of these are warned right now. These don't have warnings associated with them up around Paducah. That's a great sign, and that these are not strong enough to be warned. And so really, hopefully this will be our main round and this will be it. That would be great. Let's talk just for a second about how you need to prepare for this line coming in. And we're talking about these winds that could be pretty strong, and it looks like the strongest winds right now are centered up here around Cedar Hill, and in just west of the Springfield area. They're on highway that's 41 that kind of comes up out of Goodlettsville, goes through Springfield and off to the west toward Adams and Guthrie, and that's where the strongest winds are now, up there around Cedar Hill. And if they hang around up there, we might be spared the strongest winds here in Davidson County. But nevertheless, if you live in Joelton or even up around Bakers or over toward Ivy Point, let's see, there's Dry Creek Road and all that. There's kind of some of those areas up there in the rural areas of northern Davidson County. Y'all keep an eye on this, because some of these stronger winds come in, could bring down some trees. A lot of trees up there. Just kind of be in the center part of your house where, things that are flying around outside won't be as big of a problem. If you're in the center part of your house, that would probably be a good idea. When you get winds 60, 70 miles an hour, you definitely don't want to be near windows and the outside of your house. So that's kind of how to prepare for this as it comes in. Just, once it starts, please don't go outside and try to, cover your car up or something like that. I mean, just really be sure you're inside when these things get here. All right, checking with the weather service here. They're talking about Cedar Hill, strongest winds up there around Cedar Hill. Looks like maybe a little bit of minor wind damage up there in Clarksville. So pretty strong winds. That kind of verifies, what we're seeing on radar here. Some of these reports coming in of some minor wind damage up there. So let's back out again. If you just joined us, let's talk about where the storms are and kind of get a big picture here, and then we'll go in and talk about the particular warning that we have in effect for Davidson County here in just a second. So big picture, let me back out. And again, I'm using one radar site here in Nashville, so it's not a great view of these storms, but just because I don't want to leave these storms and that are approaching us, I won't bounce around to different radar sites. But there are some storms back to the northwest around Paducah, which is where these came from. Okay, so our storms are kind of coming out of the northwest here. We've been talking about the I-24 special, and that's what this is. Their storms are coming straight down 24. So back behind this round that's coming in now, there are unwarned, non-severe storms currently. And so there are warnings on storms in different places up to the north and down to the south around Memphis. But the ones back here around Paducah are having a hard time getting going as far as being severe. And we can speculate that these storms here coming into our area now, straight down I-24, are sort of eating up some of that storm food. Speculation, we'll see. We have no way to really know if that's what's happening. But it's a good sign that these storms back behind round one are not severe. Of course, I say that they're issuing some warnings up there in Kentucky, but okay, that's up there around I-65. So that's with round one. So these are non-severe. Let's talk about what the round one going on here, where we have our warning for Davidson County. This is a small part of Davidson County up here. It does include Joelton and off to the north around Baxter Road and Coopertown Road and those roads up there in the far northwestern tip of Davidson County. So y'all are included in this warning that came out a little bit ago that's in effect till 9:45, and that's for this round one of storms coming down I-24. So the big threat with these is going to be, some hail. Most of the hail threat's going to be, the larger hail right now is up in Robertson County, and really the main wind threat is up there too. At least the widespread high winds that we're seeing on radar here. You see these bright blues. These are up around, radar's indicating up around, 70, 74 miles an hour. That's up around 1,700 feet. So we hope that's not reaching the ground, but it's entirely possible that some severe winds are reaching the ground. So that's up here in Robertson County and pushing off to the southeast. Could clip far northern Davidson County too. They're just south of Ridgetop, around the Luton's community, the Bakers community. If you're going up the highway here, there's a Bakers Market there right before you go up the ridge into Robertson County and Ridgetop. So those areas up there, you folks may want to watch out for some of these strong winds that could clip down here in the northern part of Davidson County here in a little bit. But the strongest winds right now are approaching right there in town in Springfield, and really covering a good part of Robertson County. It's blowing pretty hard up there. So we're going to keep an eye on that over the next few minutes. But this warning here is in effect until 9:45 for northwestern Davidson County. Weather Service here is saying, let's see, I'm going to read some updates from them. Yeah, they say their main concern right now is going to be Robertson County and northern Cheatham, and that's upstream from us. Okay, so that's that they named those two counties, but that doesn't mean that we're off the hook. That's upstream from us. Okay, so that's goes through Robertson and Cheatham, and then works down into Davidson. So that's why we're keeping an eye on this very close. All right, looking at some stuff over here from David. David is tweeting over on Twitter. Will is taking your reports as this comes through. If you see severe weather, if you see damage, you can report that. If you can do it safely with a picture, or you can send that to us. Just tweet with a picture in your location if you can do all that safely. Tweet using hashtag TSpotter. And if you do that, it will pop up in our feed, and Will does a fantastic job of getting that stuff over to the Weather Service. And he if it's a report that they are interested in, in an area that they are interested in, it gets to them very quickly. And he does a great job with that. So send your reports in. That is an invaluable resource to the Weather Service, and so they can see what is going on at ground level. So going back over here to the camera in Goodlettsville, we'll go back to the radar in just a second. But this is one of those cameras that you help us out with. Those of you that are so good to help support us, we love to have these cameras and see what's going on. So we're looking out the window here in Goodlettsville, looking west. And you can see the sky lighting up pretty good there as these storms come in. In fact, they're heading pretty well directly for this camera, and they're on Main Street in Goodlettsville. So if you are just joining us, you very well may be, and haven't been in for the past few minutes. But if you are just joining us, in fact, let me take a look at your questions here. I've kind of been looking over I've got a lot of screens here, and I've been looking over on some others, but let me look and see what you're talking about here in the comments. Let's see. Talking about cracking the window to help balance pressure in your house. No, when you're under a warning, don't waste the time to do that. Not a lot of evidence saying that that's helpful. Need to take shelter more than need to worry about that. I can't go into it much, but yeah, if your weather radio is going off for counties that aren't yours, if your weather radio is equipped with SAME technology, it stands for something, SAME. It's an acronym, and if it has that technology, then you can program your specific counties. So again, you're looking here in Goodlettsville. Wow, that lit up pretty good. So a lot of lightning out there. These are very electrical storms as they come in from the northwest. Let's go back over to radar for a little bit, and let's take a look at how these storms are progressing down from I-24. These are the I-24 special that we've been talking about for the past couple of days. That it was possible that this is how it was going to turn out, and it looks like it is, coming right down I-24, these storms. And let's take a look at the winds again, and man alive, I mean, it is blowing up there in Robertson County. If these winds are reaching the ground up in Robertson County, we're talking, we're talking up in the upper 60s. I would guess they're probably winds between 60 and 70 miles an hour, possibly reaching the ground up there around Fluellen Road and some of these roads that come off, around Coopertown. But Coopertown really, between Coopertown and Springfield, going to see a pretty widespread area of some wind damage if all of that is reaching the ground. No way to know if it actually is, except for your reports. But that is... that's a lot of wind up there. So looking at, radar is indicating somewhere between 60 and 70 mile an hour straight line winds up there in Robertson County. Now, what would affect us more so is over here in northern Cheatham County. Let me get that red box off there. That is lightning, high resolution lightning. I'm going to turn that off. We know it's lightning outside. So this is Cheatham County here. This is Pleasant View and Ashland City. And these winds here would be coming more down into Joelton, around Beeman Park and Fontenelle, those areas. This wind right here around Pleasant View and Ashland City. So radar is indicating there it could be in the 60s as well. Wouldn't be out of the question to see some 50 and 60 mile an hour gusts for sure there in Cheatham County, working down to the southeast. So boy, right through the heart of Springfield here, looks like some pretty strong winds. So hopefully some folks up there are going to be able to send some reports in, so we can see what's going on. But that's a lot of wind going right through downtown Springfield if that's all reaching the ground. That's, radar's indicating about 70 miles an hour there at about 1,400 feet. So it's pretty strong. You're getting pretty close to hurricane force, at least what's being indicated on the radar. Hopefully it's a little less than that at the ground level. Okay, let's go back over here and look at this polygon here. Looks like, hold on, a note from the Weather Service here. They're about to issue a new warning. That's going to include a new warning might clip Davidson County again here. And then there'll be some other warnings coming out. So it won't be surprised here if we see some additional warnings coming out in the next 30 seconds or so. And you'll see some more polygons pile on here as this line comes into Davidson County. So, all right. We're going to talk about those when they show up, and they should be showing up here in the next 30 seconds to a minute. As these new severe thunderstorm warnings are issued for Davidson and Sumner and some other counties as well. Looks like one's coming out here till 10:15, and that will include Davidson County, probably the northern part. And there it is right there. So you have a new polygon that's just now showing up. This is going to clip the northern part of Davidson County again. And this is going to include areas up in the northern. In fact, you folks up there in the northern part of Davidson County, I would say need to make sure that you're away from your windows and that sort of thing. If you're up in the Bakers community, up in the Lutens area, all the way down sort of into town there in Goodlettsville, if you're back around Dry Creek Road, areas like that, there's pretty substantial wind being indicated on radar here. You're now under severe thunderstorm warning up there until 10:15. So you folks up there in the northern part of the county, you need to prepare for some pretty strong winds, and as that could be coming through here in just a few minutes. So let's see here. I'm gonna pull up a couple of things here that might help to know just how things are going up there, and I'm going to keep an eye on that off to the side of my side view here. So I'm going to set that up and be watching the northern part of the county as we're watching radar here. So let's go over and look at the camera again. This is there in Goodlettsville, looking off to the west. And I'll just kind of tell you, I'll talk about radar here over in the Bakers area. Let me zoom on in here. We got some other labels that show up here. Here in Goodlettsville, the Bakers community, there's Baker Road that goes off of the highway there, or off of Old Springfield Pike, Ivy Point, Greer Road, Ridgeview Estates, Baxter Road, Coopertown Road. All you folks up there need to prepare for some pretty nasty winds that may come through here in the next 15 minutes or so. And that's looking, radar is indicating some pockets up in the 60s. I'd say prepare for at least some 50s into the 60s there, as that warning has come out for the northern part of the county all the way down, covers Rivergate and down toward Lakewood as well. So that's in effect until 10:15. All right, so I've got a couple of camera views over here that I'm watching. You're watching one here there at the First Baptist Church there in Goodlettsville, there on Main Street. That's looking off from the top of their building off to the west, and a great view off there to the west, and obviously an electrical show going on there as well. Very electrical storms. Let's go back to radar here. Let me show you these pockets of wind. And I'm talking about Robertson County a lot, only because this is kind of moving into the northern parts of Davidson County, and we have a lot of, we have some folks that watch from up there and want to be sure we're covering them. So got a couple of pockets here of 65 mile-an-hour winds are being indicated, and all these blues are really over 60. And so as that pushes down to the southeast, areas like Joelton, around Beeman Park, around Ridgeview Estates, Baxter Road, Ivy Point, Greer Road, Licton Pike, Old Springfield Pike, Baker Road, Baker Station Road. There along the highway, if you live up there, you know the 5-lane highway that goes up there from Goodlettsville up to Ridgetop. There's Baker's Market there, Tenon Road. All of those areas up there, it's a very wooded area. And so, there's a potential there for some wind damage to those trees, and so you don't want to be outside, and you want to be inside away from the windows as this comes through. So this should be coming through here in the next 15 or maybe 20 minutes, but it's moving pretty good. So maybe 15 minutes or so, and it'll be gone hopefully. All right, so let's go back to the reflectivity. This is sort of a view you're used to looking at. Very heavy rain, and there's embedded areas in this rain of that really heavy wind. Okay, so that first gust of wind is probably not going to be the last one. Okay, you may get a few more as that pushes off to the southeast. Hey, let's talk just a second about down south of 40, because let's see, hang on just a second here. It looks like we have another warning coming out. I'll get to that here in just a second. So if you're south of 40, you're not under a warning currently. You might be here in about 15 seconds as this new one comes out. But there are a couple of new severe thunderstorm warnings coming out here. But Williamson County, this is not for you yet, although we're going to watch it. So we'll see here in just a minute if it looks like Williamson's going to be included in this new warning. So we'll see what the polygon looks like once it pops up. We're going to take a look at, while that's loading here in just a second, we're going to take a look at something from Nashville. This is a, let's see here. Let's see if I can get this pulled up. Yeah, you see that new polygon that just popped up? That's going to include downtown Nashville all the way down to Brentwood and into Franklin here in just a second. Let's see here if I can pull something up. I'm trying something. Give me just a second here. All right, yeah, this is something David shared just a minute ago. This is a vertical wind profiler, so the radar is showing the direction of the winds being read by the radar. So we got some south winds here coming directly up from the south, and then they kind of shift around a little bit and are really feeding these storms. So really some pretty good inflow coming into these storms here. But those of you that know anything about vertical wind profilers, thought you might want to see this. But that's the direction of the winds from the levels of the atmosphere. So lowest level coming from the south, and then they veer, or they come back around to the left here, and you got southwest winds. That's a good example of shear right there, by the way. So just wanted to show you that. Let's go back to the radar here. Enough with the scientific stuff. All right, let's talk about what's going on up to the north, and let's see how the winds are doing up around the Bakers area. So it looks like we got some pretty strong wind that could be coming in there to the order of about 50 miles an hour or so. We'll see if that reaches the ground. We'll know here in just a second. I've got some good video images up there that we'll watch. But in the meantime, we've got a new warning that's come out now that does include the northern part of Williamson County. This warning is going to be in effect until 10:15, and that's going to be, again, just sort of a continuation of this bow echo coming through town. So we're gonna keep an eye on that as it comes through. But just so you're aware, if you're in Brentwood, if you're down almost to Franklin, down to about Cool Springs, back to Bellevue, not quite to Nolensville, but getting pretty close, and over in eastern Davidson County, really covering almost all of Davidson County now. New warning until 10:15. I want to take a look at what's called the TB&A radar. This is a radar out of Nolensville, and you see us use this from time to time, and that's not it. Let me go to it right here. Switch over to it. See if we can get it to switch over to TB&A here. There we go. All right, now TB&A actually is showing a pretty substantial area of wind coming through Ashland City. And if that is accurate, that, you know, TB&A here is sampling winds at about 80 miles an hour coming right through the middle of Ashland City. So let me check Nashville's radar. Nashville's radar doesn't have quite as good of an angle on it, but I tell you, if you're in western Davidson County, you definitely want to be away from your windows as this comes through. So if you are around Bull Run Road, I'm going to name off a couple of roads here that come up, like Bull Run, Pecan Valley, Old Hickory Boulevard back around here in the Bells Bend area. There is some evidence here on TB&A that TB&A is reading, this is reading 80 mile an hour winds up at about 1,500 feet. So we could have a substantial area of wind damage here coming into the western part of the county. And so if you're in the western part of Davidson County, you want to be sure you're away from your windows as this comes in. Watching some video from up in the Goodlettsville area, and it's blowing. It's not blowing too terribly hard yet, and so that's good. But these areas are localized of these areas of strong winds. So just because one place doesn't get it, just down the road might. Looks like we have another warning coming out of this, a significant weather advisory back from around Dixon County. So our main focus right here is going to be this area of potentially very strong wind that came right through the middle of Ashland City and is there right now. So we're going to see if that holds together as it pushes to the southeast. But that's some pretty strong wind. All right, let me type in a note over here. All right. Let's go back over to the Weather Service radar and check out. It has a pretty good read on what was happening up in the northern part of Davidson County. Has actually a perfect read on it, and the winds have come down a little bit in the northern part of Davidson County. That's a good sign. It's still confined mostly up here, about to cross I-65 around the White House area. So that's a pretty strong area of wind up there. That looks to miss Davidson County. It looks like the wind here in the northern part of Davidson County has come down a little bit. That's a good sign. And that's reflected in some video that I'm seeing. Still pretty gusty, but I wouldn't say over about 30 or so. So that's a good sign. Let's back out of that. Let's go over to the let's go back over to the Goodlettsville camera here in just a second. All right, here's your camera in Goodlettsville. And still pretty nasty storm out there. All right, hey, let's go back over to TB&A. I want to kind of focus on this for a little bit. This radar has a really good read on this, and this is a radar down here at the bottom of your screen in Nolensville, and the storm is heading directly for it, which is when you get your best readings. And so we're just going to stick with TB&A for a little while because it has a great read on this wind. So just coming through Ashland City here is potentially some 70 mile an hour winds up here around 1,400 feet. So are those reaching the surface? We're not entirely sure, but we need to assume that these winds that are reaching the surface are severe and can cause damage. So up here, and it's coming out of Ashland City now, coming into Davidson County, and we're looking at potential of about some 70, 80 mile an hour winds up there crossing Bull Run Road and up around Little Marrowbone Road, getting up there around Marrowbone Lakes off there to the north. But just south of that, some pretty strong wind coming into the county. All right, so let's talk about where this is going, because we need to see kind of where this is headed. And if this continues on its track, it's going to kind of come down around the Ashland City Highway exit on Briley Parkway and Bells Bend, and kind of down around Centennial Boulevard. And so it's moving pretty quickly, and it's definitely it definitely has the potential of some pretty strong wind there. I mean, radar's indicating like 82 miles an hour here, up around 1,200 feet. So if you live around Old Hickory Boulevard, this is the Old Hickory Boulevard that comes like around Beeman Park and down into Bell's Bend. It's a very rural area out there. But if you live out that way, you need to prepare in the next 30 seconds or so for some potentially very strong winds that could come through and do some tree damage. And it looks like it's crossing Bull Run Road. If you live up there, you know where that is, where Bull Run comes off Old Hickory Boulevard. They're south of Beeman Park. And that's their kind of around Highway 12, Ashland City Highway. And so that's where this is crossing. So as it comes through town, it's going to kind of go, come through there, cross Old Hickory Boulevard, cross Ashland City Highway, and then come down to Briley Parkway, west of town around I-40 and Centennial Boulevard and all that. So those are the areas that are kind of next in line for this. If you live around the kind of around John C. Toon Airport, down around the Nations in Bordeaux. If you live near the river out there west of town, really, if you live near the river west of town, you could potentially be getting some very strong winds shortly. So this will eventually, it may come into downtown, and it's really kind of making a beeline. Let me put this in motion here, and we can kind of see. Just watch the bright blues, and you can kind of see where they're coming. Here's downtown here. And you kind of see the bright blues coming in from Ashland City. They're kind of coming right down Highway 12, right down Ashland City Highway. So that's a mean-looking storm. Definitely some straight-line wind threat in there. All right, let me check with the Weather Service here. Okay, the Weather Service is asking, if you happen to be watching from Ashland City, now of course we only covered Davidson and Williamson counties, but if you happen to be watching from Ashland City, the Weather Service is badly in need of some reports out there in Ashland City to see kind of, what kind of wind was hitting the ground out here in Cheatham County. And so if you could just hit us up on Twitter, just tweet a picture or your location, tell us what the wind was like if you were in Ashland City. They would really appreciate that. Tweet and then use hashtag TSpotter, and that would be really helpful as the Weather Service kind of needs to know what was going on out there. Basically, we're wanting to know, is this wind being indicated on the radar, which is upwards around being indicated 70 to 80 miles an hour? Is that reaching the ground, or is it not? But that's the big question. So if you're from Ashland City, let us know what you experienced out there. All right, let's I'm going to pull up a different camera here that we're going to be watching. This is the Midtown camera, and so we'll be watching this as this storm approaches as well. This is they're west of town, looking east into downtown, just to kind of orient you here. So that's, we'll be watching that camera as well. That's kind of the next one in line as this wind comes down through. Now I'm kind of off the other side here. I'm kind of checking our cameras to make sure the ones we need are up and running here. In fact, it looks like our Oak Hill camera's in good shape, so we'll be watching that as it comes through. In fact, there's a nice, there at the Oak Hill camera, a nice tree right in front of the camera here. We'll be able to kind of see how that does when the wind comes through. So let's go back to radar. Let's make sure we stay on top of this. This is a pretty serious wind threat coming through for the western part of Davidson County and soon to be the central part. But these are some pretty strong winds being indicated here, 70 miles an hour, even a couple of pixels here indicating 80. They're around Scottsboro, and that's pushing to the southeast. But there's these pockets of wind that could be pretty destructive. In fact, I see a reply here of someone here that was in Ashland City. It was very, very windy, but the wind just died down a bit and it's raining. So hopefully no damage up there in Ashland City, but man alive, it was blowing pretty good up there a little bit ago. So somebody up there guesses maybe 40 to 50 in Ashland City. That's good. Maybe the strongest wasn't reaching the ground. That would be great if it didn't make it to the surface. But here's where the strongest wind is now. Again, just track the blue colors, and that's where your strongest wind is. So your strongest wind being indicated on radar is about to cross Old Hickory Boulevard around Bell's Bend. And let me turn the radar off here. If I turn the radar off, you can kind of see on a map. Here's Scottsboro here. This is Highway 12 that comes off of, or Ashland City Highway, I guess it is, that comes off of Briley Parkway. And then you got Bell's Bend down here, the bend in the river. Okay, and then you got like John C. Toon Airport's right here. So that's just kind of where we are, just kind of orient you a little bit. And of course, downtown's there. As we turn the radar back on, you can see where the strongest winds are. Here's Beeman Park up here. You know, it's pretty bright blue there, and then that's pushing down to the southeast, even down to the Nations area, west, right off I-40 there, Briley Parkway. So it could be pretty windy here in town. We're gonna keep an eye on that, and let me switch over. And Weather Service radar, not at a good angle with this. So let me show you kind of the difference here. Here's the Weather Service radar, and you don't see any blues hardly, just a lot of green. And so the reason is, here's your radar, and these winds are coming into town, and they're kind of running, perpendicular to the radar beam. And so it's kind of like, it's radar. So it measures how fast something is going toward the radar or away from it. If it's going perpendicular to it, it doesn't read it well at all. So these could be very strong winds, and the radar is just not picking it up very well. So we go to a radar that is in a better spot down in Nolensville, and these winds are coming directly at it, so it gets a good read on them. And so we get some very bright blues in here, indicating some pretty strong winds aloft. So looking at about 1,000 feet, about 67 up to 70 miles an hour. So still very windy here around Bell's Bend, down to the Nations, and going down into downtown here shortly, and around the Vanderbilt area, around 440, Berry Hill, Bellmead, Oak Hill, and all the way up around Fontenelle, up to the 2465 split up north of Nashville. Could be some pretty strong winds coming through. So again, let me mention to you about the reports. Those are very important to us. And we want you to know that those reports are awesome. So send those in to us if you would, and just tweet using hashtag TSpotter. Let us know what you see, and if there are any damage, if there's any damage in your area. If you can safely take a picture, that'd be cool. Don't go out in a storm and take a picture, please. Wait till later. But if you see some damage, if you could find a way safely to get it to us at some point, that would be great. Seeing that wind is picking up in the Nations, people reporting that. Thanks for letting us know. That kind of confirms what we're seeing on radar. Here's the Nations here, the Urbandale Nations neighborhood, and there is some pretty strong wind there. Radar is indicating up possibly around 60 miles an hour, so pretty windy there in the Nations. But the strongest wind is still back to the northwest of you around Bell's Bend, right there along Old Hickory Boulevard, up there around, you got some sod farms up there and stuff like that. Pretty neat area of town. But anyway, that's where kind of the strongest wind is, crossing now through that rural area of western Davidson County, pushing into town. Getting interesting in Hendersonville. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned Fontenelle. Major wind in Charlotte Park. Okay. So I'll tell you what, let's do. We're going to go over to, we're going to keep this Midtown camera handy because we may need it here in a little bit to see if there's any power outages. We can see pretty well up here when blocks of light go out. So we'll keep an eye on that. But the most important thing is the radar here that I'm watching over on the other screen. All right, checking on some updates from the Weather Service. Not much. They're just kind of letting these warnings ride for now. Let's go over to the radar. Good thing about this radar is This radar actually updates about every minute. So we get to stay on top of this when we use this radar. And it looks like still the strongest area of wind is going to affect from Beeman Park down to Bells Bend. And if I kind of were to draw a circle down to Forest Hills and Creve Hall, down toward Antioch, over toward the airport, including downtown, maybe up to the southern parts of Madison around Briley Parkway there. So that's kind of where really, kind of the middle part of Davidson County could see these highest winds. Weather Service is looking at the storms back to the west, and they're kind of curious as we are about how strong these storms are going to be back to the west of us, like round 2. So we'll watch that later. They say that this line of storms here coming into Metro is something to continue to watch, but probably is taking the juice away back to the west. So we're going to keep an eye on that as well. So they're giving us a little update on these storms back to the west back here. So yeah, they're really kind of falling apart at the moment. So these, this could be our main event. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see. Let's go back to velocities here and see just, kind of how this is progressing. I hate to leave this picture because really what I want you to see is follow, as we were talking about just a second ago, follow the blues, okay? The greens aren't as important, but as the radar reads this stuff and displays it, the blues are the colors that are pretty important. So you're talking in the darker the blue now, like over here around Bells Bend, radar's indicating potentially, winds up to about 70 miles an hour. That's being sampled up at about 1,000 feet. But, 70 miles an hour comes down to the ground. That's going to blow things around pretty good. So it's definitely something to watch. And if you reported just a second ago, as you did, the Nations area having some pretty strong wind, that's indicated here on radar around 58 miles an hour. So, so it's possible that these are reaching the ground. All right, so let's talk about what to do. Should you be taking shelter? That's a good question. Good question. If you are within this yellow polygon here in Davidson County, this is a severe thunderstorm warning until 10:15. And if you are in the path of these winds that are coming through really the middle to western part of Davidson County, I would get to the middle part of your house. I definitely would not be around windows. If this is reaching the ground up into the 60 to 70 mile an hour range, that's pretty severe, especially if you have trees around you. I would advise you to be kind of in the center part of your house away from windows. The Weather Service put something out earlier today saying basically treat these things as you would a tornado warning. Be away, put as many walls between you and the outside as possible, that kind of thing. So there are no tornado warnings in effect. This is a severe thunderstorm warning. But, winds up at around hurricane force, if that's actually what's reaching the ground, that's pretty serious. That's as strong as a low-end tornado. So definitely I would be seeking shelter away from your windows. And, why not? Just go ahead and put as many walls as you can between you and the outside. If these winds, truly are as strong as they are, you don't want to be around your windows and that kind of thing. So definitely could cause some tree damage and that kind of thing. All right, I'm going to keep handy the, let's go to the Midtown camera here. And I've noticed the cranes, actually since just the last time we were here, the cranes have now swung around to the right. They were kind of facing downtown a little bit ago. And so I believe the sort of that push of wind has now hit Midtown, and those cranes have swung around to the right there and are kind of facing from kind of northwest down to the south or southeast. So definitely some wind affecting there in Midtown. We're going to keep an eye on this. Let's watch Midtown for just a second. I'm going to talk over this and kind of describe to you about radar. And so the radar is showing still about the same thing, really around the White Bridge area. This is going to be around, let's see, that's around St. Thomas West Hospital. That's going to be, what is that? That's Woodmont Boulevard. Woodmont Boulevard back to the west, and White Bridge Road, definitely could be some strong winds over there around the Hillwood area, St. Thomas West, Elmington Park, Sylvan Park. Could be pretty windy over there. Somebody's asking about tornadoes. I just happened to glance over. No tornado warnings in effect. This is a straight line wind event, as it seems right now. So you're looking over at the Midtown camera. I'm watching radar over on the other screen and kind of describing to you what I'm seeing. Still the strongest area of wind is still up around Scottsboro. They're off of Highway 12, or right along Highway 12, Ashland City Highway there, moving to the east, and it's going to be at Briley Parkway pretty quickly. So let me switch over and show radar again. It looks pretty much the same. There's not a lot of change here, other than there are pockets of pretty strong wind. Let me go ahead here, and there's your newest image there, and the strongest wind now crossing Briley Parkway, coming into Bordeaux and Bells Bend and the nation's TSU, the Haynes community, and is now pushing pretty much through Scottsboro. So that's going to be approaching downtown here in a little bit. Fisk University, Vanderbilt, Sylvan Park, White Bridge, St. Thomas West, Belmont, kind of where the old Greer Stadium was there, Trevecca, Melrose. These are the areas that could be affected by this area of strong wind here in just a little bit. I'm looking over here to see about your reports over here in the replies. Give me just a second here. I really am curious to know if this is hitting the ground. Reporting some wind there in Germantown, and let's go back over here to the Midtown camera. So this is lightning coming in, storm coming in, strongest wind within the Briley Parkway corridor now, and is approaching, really coming into Bordeaux. And yeah, I've been actually seeing quite a few hail reports in Hendersonville. Somebody just talked about Hendersonville, and yeah, it looked pretty nasty up there. So quite a bit of hail in Hendersonville, actually. So we're going to watch here for, on the Midtown camera, we're going to watch for any power flashes, anything that would look like, wind damage taking place as these storms come in. And latest radar picture now showing East Nashville getting a couple of pockets of some pretty strong wind as it comes through, but most of the wind is going to be over in the Bordeaux. It's actually coming right through Bordeaux, right there where you cross the river around the bridge, coming into Metro Center, and also down to the south around TSU. So Charlotte Park, you're talking about some moderate but not severe wind, okay? The wind is crazy in Sylvan Park, okay? It's good to know. All right. So this severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in effect until 10:15. So could be some more warnings coming out here in just a few minutes, but we're watching carefully here on the Midtown camera to see if we see any power flashes. A lot of hail reports coming in though, seeing a lot of pea-sized hail reports. And let me switch over just for a second here and show you the radar again as we talk about where this wind is coming into. So right around Bordeaux, could be some 60 mile an hour winds being indicated. 60 mile an hour winds here about 700 feet. That's pretty low, really. And wind getting pretty bad in Germantown. Okay, thanks for that report. And this wind's moving off to the southeast here. So again, watch the blues. The blues are the areas of heaviest wind. A little spot of some blue over there in East Nashville around 5 points, kind of heading down towards Shelby Park. So the blues here are where the strongest winds are going to be. Let's go back over to the Midtown camera here. So we're watching as this storm comes into town, about to come inside the interstate loops of 440. Of course, a very electrical storm. And we're watching as the heaviest winds come inside the interstate loops here of 440 and 65. And watching over here on radar as that happens. While we're here, let's jump over to the Weather Service radar and just kind of show you a big picture. So this is the line of storms coming through. It's kind of laid down now, more of a west to east line here. And as it does that, this is kind of how it's progressing. And as it pushes east, some more warnings coming out east, but, it could be a pretty heavy rain situation here as, it might slow down a little bit for us coming through. So, could be some pretty heavy rain for a little while here in central Davidson County and back to the west along I-40. Again, looking off to the northwest, though, this looks like this is going to be our round. The storms back to the northwest they just don't have a lot of fuel to work off of. So that's a good sign. Those have weakened quite a bit, and we're left with this one round here in Davidson County. So back to the Midtown camera, and I'm going to jump back over to the other radar we were looking at a little bit ago. Again, just kind of following the blue on our radar here. In just a second, I'll show you kind of where the strongest winds are. So let's go ahead and flip over to that. Strongest winds now, it appear to be from Bell's Bend over to John C. Toon, Bordeaux, all the way over to kind of Talbot's Corner. That's up off of Dickerson Road there. And what is that, Trinity Lane maybe? Trinity Lane, Dickerson Road area. And then down to Metro Center. So that's where the strongest area of wind still is. All right, back over to the Midtown camera as this comes through. And let's see here. Looking over at some reports here off of, let's see, 5th and Davidson. Winds and lightning are gnarly. Reading some of your tweets. The good thing is, watching this camera, and maybe I've just missed it when I'm looking off, but I haven't seen a lot of power flashes. So that's a good sign. Hopefully our infrastructure is holding up okay as these winds come through here. But these are certainly the kinds of winds that can cause problems with that. And go back over to radar here. We got some new images coming in on the radar. Wind is, strongest wind is just kind of hanging around. It's just very, very slow to push through, but could still be some very strong wind right around TSU, Fisk University, right around the Nations. So it would be really interesting to know if this is actually reaching the ground, because it's indicating pretty heavy wind. Not much going on in the Nations right now. Lightning and light rain, light wind. So if you got light wind in the Nations right now, Danielle was just saying, if you got light wind in the Nations, it makes me wonder if this is actually reaching the surface, because we're looking at about 58 miles an hour, and not much wind in Charlotte Park. Okay, that's good to know. That's very good to know. Calming down in Germantown. So it makes me think that possibly these winds aren't reaching the ground here, and that are being indicated in the 58 mile an hour range, gusty on 12 South. Yeah, I might have some just kind of wind gusts here and there. Let me switch over to, I'm going to check out the Oak Hill camera, because that kind of area gusty winds kind of came through there a little bit. Looks like another severe is coming out here in just a minute. Let's go over to the Oak Hill camera. So this is Oak Hill. Yeah, it looks breezy, but it's not, by no means severe there right now along Franklin Road in Oak Hill. This is just kind of south of the 12 South area. New severe thunderstorm warning just came out actually for Davidson County. We'll go to that here in just a second. All right, so we're looking here at... let's see. This is a new severe thunderstorm warning that's come out now for southeastern Davidson County. And it looks like they've allowed the one up in the middle part of town to expire. So that expired at 10:15. And so a new severe thunderstorm warning we are left with here, that's in effect until 11 o'clock, and that's for the Antioch area over to Percy Priest Lake. That would include areas like Cane Ridge, but does not include Williamson County. So Williamson County is excluded from that warning, and it's just a Davidson County issue there up and down I-24, down to the Rutherford County line, all the way up to around the Harding Place exit there around... well, I guess actually that'd be up around the Bradley Parkway exit, on I-24. So really all of southeastern Davidson County, south of I-40 and around I-24, you're included in this warning. So pretty strong winds there across the lake and down toward Antioch. Could be some strong winds over in Creve Hall too. A couple of pixels of blue showing up there around Creve Hall. A lot of trees over in Creve Hall, so could be an issue over there in Creve Hall if you get some gusts going. I'm going to go look at the Weather Service radar for just a second and see how the winds are showing up there. Yeah, it looks like the Weather Service radar has got a good view now that the storms have kind of crossed over the radar, so the colors turn red because the wind is going away from the radar. Looks like there's a couple of pockets over there in Wilson County of maybe some 57, 58 mile an hour gusts, but generally the radar is showing, winds in the 40 mile an hour range around Percy Priest Lake and around Belinda City. But again, you got to watch kind of the angle to the radar and how good of a read that is. So the good news is looks like the winds weren't quite as strong coming through downtown as they could have been. Looks like a significant weather advisory coming for Davidson and Williamson. Let me tell you what, let me come out of this. There we go. All right, this is more of our traditional look here at radar. So still some strong storms back here around Dixon County. Looks like a significant weather advisory coming out that will include just kind of give everybody a heads up in Williamson County of these storms coming in from Dixon County. But right now they're not severe. These are going to be sub-severe storms. All right, so severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect. We just have one for us, and that's going to be here for southeastern Davidson County. That's going to be in effect until 11 o'clock, so we got about another 40 minutes on that. And can you see the wind map again? Yes, you can. Let me pull up the one around Nolensville. This is going to be a good one to show. All right, so this is around Nolensville. And, could be right around, let's see, what road is that? That's Mount Pisgah Road. This would be Evanston Pike here. This is Nippers Corner, Old Hickory Boulevard. Well, you can't really see that, can you? Nippers Corner here, Nolensville Pike, Old Hickory Boulevard. It's where the Kroger and the Lowe's and the Walmart is up there. So could be some gusty winds, just kind of mixed in there in the 50 mile an hour range. And then as you go over to the east here, inside the severe thunderstorm warning, that covers areas like Laverne up to Antioch, right there around the airport property up there and Percy Priest Lake. So they say that the storm back to the west is starting to intensify a little bit. This would be a storm back around Dixon that the Weather Service actually just put out a significant weather advisory for. That's what this white polygon is. It's a significant weather advisory that's in effect until... let's see, that's going to be in effect until 11. And so that they say there's possible that we could get some winds of 30 miles an hour and some nickel-sized hail, that kind of thing. So, but the storm is increasing in intensity, and that's the storm around Dixon. So as that pushes southeast, that could become a problem for us if it decides to strengthen, and it might be. Indications are it could be strengthening, so we'll just have to watch it for a minute. So the good news is storms around downtown have weakened considerably, kind of moved off to the east. So just some rain around downtown now. Back to the Midtown camera. We don't see a lot of well, it looks like downtown's disappeared. I think it's a water drop right in the middle of the lens, but I don't think it's I'm sure downtown is just fine. But there's a water drop right there in the middle of the lens. So definitely some rain out there. It looks like the storm's come down in intensity quite a bit in the downtown area. So that warning was allowed to expire. All right, let's walk through just a couple of things here and talk about where we're going from here. Two things we need to watch. The first thing is we have an active severe thunderstorm warning over here in the southeastern part of Davidson County. That's going to be from Antioch over to the Percy Priest Lake area and all those neighborhoods over there around Percy Priest Lake between I-24 and Percy Priest Lake. Kind of along Murfreesboro Road. So there's an active severe thunderstorm warning in effect for over there, and even some areas over there across the lake. All right, so that's number one, and that's in effect until 11 p.m. The second thing we need to watch for is back over here to the west. We have a storm around Dixon. It's in southeastern Dixon County. Could have some hail with it. Could have some winds with it. There's not a radar that's really in a good position to sample the winds really well with this one, except for maybe TB&A. And TB&A, if we switch to it, is showing, again, some pretty strong winds to the tune of about 60 miles an hour there in southwestern Dixon County. Okay, so we got to watch for that. Will this storm strengthen? Right now it is not severe. It does not have a warning on it, but it does have a significant weather advisory. That's pushing toward Williamson County. All right, let me put this in motion here, and you can kind of see how it progresses to the southeast. So this is going to be the Williamson County storm here that's now in Dixon County. So it's going to go through Fairview first. They're around Highway 96, the Natchez Trace Bridge, down to Boston and Greenbrier and those areas along 840. And then eventually over to Franklin. Excuse me. So this is going to be the Williamson County storm here. If it strengthens, it may get a warning, and we'll just have to see if it does. But it looks like a pretty potent storm nonetheless. All right. So those are the two things to watch, and those are the two things kind of on our radar right now, so to speak. And I get a drink of water. Sorry about that. All right, so if you are in northern Davidson County, you guys are pretty much out of the woods with this unless something develops again back to the northwest. But man, all indications are these storms are just falling apart back off to our northwest. That's great news, and that this maybe is our one event for the night. And there's good indication of that. This probably will be our round for the night. That would be good. Back over to TB&A, an area of strong wind here, a little pocket of strong wind here right on I-40. And that's going to be around Piney Road out there in Dixon County, around I-40. And we'll have to see if that gets its act together and becomes a little bit stronger or a little bit more widespread. But we're going to be watching the hail threat with that storm as well as it potentially starts ramping up. Radar is indicating could be up around 3/4 inch hail. That'd be smaller than quarters. And we hope it doesn't get bigger for sure. All right, checking your comments over here. Yeah, airport's getting there as far as being in the clear. Still some pretty heavy rain around. What do I mean when I say second round? So we were watching earlier as these storms that we're experiencing now were back up around Hopkinsville and Paducah. This was kind of round one, and then there was an area of stronger storms still back to the northwest of that. And so we were kind of watching it, wondering if this would be round one and there would be another round behind it. Those storms have weakened significantly that are up there behind the round we're getting now. So it looks like this is going to be our round for the night. that would be good news. Although, there are still some storms back here around southern Stewart County, a little cell there, decent sized cell back in southeastern Missouri. They're moving southeast, so we'll watch it. But the storms up around Hopkinsville and Paducah have really, really weakened. Ton of wind and rain, I-24 and Bell Road. All right, so yes. Bunch of heavy rain there. Not seeing anything. Let's look at the winds. I'm going to go over and look at TBNA. And, winds don't look severe. Our radar site's right down here in Nolensville. This is right near some of the neighborhoods on the north side of Nolensville. Shooting off to the north, looking right at it. And nothing looks like it's rocking too bad around Hickory Hollow there, but definitely some... 40 mile an hour winds or so possible there in Cane Ridge along Old Hickory Boulevard, the Hidden Creek neighborhood, some of those subdivisions there in the Cane Ridge area. Could be some pretty gusty winds. But hopefully nothing severe at this point. But there is nonetheless a severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 11 o'clock. Calming down in Cane Ridge now. Significant wind until just now. A lot of rain. Okay, that's good to know. Picking up in the Brentwood, Nolensville area. So, yes, definitely some winds crossing the radar site there. So, radar's picking up winds in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range. They're just off the surface. So, this is coming through Nolensville right now. Okay, so let's go back over here and talk about the two things that we are watching. Two things we're watching is this warning, of course, in southeastern Davidson County. The other thing we're watching is this area of storms in southern Dixon County to see if it increases in intensity. So the hail sizes so far have not come up. That's good. Radar's indicating that they are still below an inch in diameter, which is what's considered severe. How can you determine the size of hail from radar? Well, our radar software has some estimates in there of hail sizes. In fact, I can switch over to a mode here that only shows hail. And so your brighter colors here, like your yellows, would be higher hail sizes. So looking at about the, 0.8 of an inch in diameter. This is a radar estimate. It's hard to tell exactly a hail size just from radar, but the software here tries to estimate it. It does a pretty good job most of the time. Looking at your comments, what about the Kentucky and Tennessee line? Well, just some rain up there. If you're talking about this next round coming in, it looks very weak. Calming down significantly in Hermitage. That's good. We want it to calm down in Hermitage. Y'all have had a rough day. Had a pretty good hailer up there in Hermitage earlier with some 1-inch hail reported in a couple of places there in Hermitage. So, rough day in Hermitage. But your storm earlier today may well have made things less strong tonight. We won't get into why all that happens, but it's possible. It's possible. All right, so you're looking here at your kind of a main radar picture, and let's see, I'm going to check something. Check a couple of cameras. Really nothing outstanding as far as anything crazy on the cameras. That's a good sign. Let's go over here and look at TBNA again. Pretty gusty winds on radar here. 30-40 miles an hour in Nolensville. Nothing too crazy. That's right off the surface. That's probably pretty accurate. Let's go back over here and look in Dixon County, though. Still pretty strong winds being indicated there. This is in northern Hickman County, in southern, right along I-40 and the Dixon-Hickman County line. Some pretty strong winds being indicated there. This is way up, 2,700 feet, 70 miles an hour. So see if those are actually reaching the surface, but that's generally heading toward Williamson County here shortly. But again, that's non-severe. That is not warned currently for severe weather. The only warning we have in effect over here is in southeastern Davidson County. Should I put my car in the garage at the airport? Well, if you're talking about the Nashville airport, it's already come through there. So I don't think doing that would help you too much at this point there at the airport. I think it's what's come through at the airport has probably pretty much come through and is over and done with there. Big wind at the Davidson-Rutherford line there in Laverne. OHX radar. This is a Weather Service radar showing pretty gusty winds there in northern. Let's see, that's going to be in southern Wilson County. So hopefully that didn't affect anybody in Davidson as it came through. But that's showing up around 70 miles an hour, about 600 feet. So pretty strong winds there in Gladeville possibly. Davidson is getting worse. If you could kind of help me out on where that is, that would be good. Let's see. All right, let me back out here and look at, got some storm reports coming in. Looks like most of that's over in Wilson County, Montgomery County. You're not seeing just a lot here in Davidson, so that's a good sign. Hopefully we didn't, hopefully we kind of dodged a bullet there. Let's go back over to TVNA radar. This is going to give us a good read on, it looks like actually somebody's reporting some pea-sized hail over there in northern Hickman County. That's going to be back over here, the storm we're watching. So storm we're watching over here where we see some pretty strong winds. Could be some pea-sized hail over there. That's been pretty common actually and really isn't considered severe, but it's a good report to have just to kind of see how the storm is behaving over there in the northern part of Hickman County. And radar is indicating hail, maybe a loft, could be up around 3/4 of an inch in diameter. That's smaller than that's probably nickel size, something like that. Smaller hail over there, possibly around Fairview. And I'm just kind of looking at a couple of different indicators over here. And this is kind of our hail view. This shows where hail could be falling, and really nothing spectacular. Maybe some small hail over in the western part of Fairview, but again, that's, anything under quarter size is not considered severe. So that's that's not going to damage anything. All right, let's go back over here and look at the warning that's still in effect. This warning is still in effect here for Davidson County. Looks like the majority of the winds pushed off into northern Rutherford and southern Wilson County. So so it looks like most of it's moved out of Davidson. That's good. Still some heavy rain left there in Davidson, but not seeing indications of any real strong winds heading through Antioch or anything right toward the radar site. So that's good. Things may have come down in Davidson a little bit. Near Nolensville sounds really bad. Yeah, some gusty winds out there in Nolensville. Will there be a second line after this one? Good question, and we don't think so. This is kind of a look at the kind of what's behind us, and looks like just some rain currently. All right, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do for the time being. We're going to jump off of here, and then we're going to jump back on if any other warnings are issued back to the west. But let me just kind of show you what we have here before we wrap up. The most severe part has moved out of Davidson County here. The warning technically is in effect till 11 o'clock, but the worst of it has pushed down into the along 840 in Wilson and Rutherford County. Still got a strong storm coming in back to the west. It's currently non-severe, but we'll jump on if it goes severe and let you know all about that. All right. So, hey, y'all have a good night. And David's over on Twitter. He'll be tweeting over there. If you have any reports, please send those to us using hashtag TSpotter, and we will get those over to the Weather Service as soon as possible. All right, y'all have a good night, and we'll talk to you a little bit later.